Okay, this is tape 3, and this is direct examination by who?
By me.
Okay, this is direct examination by the union of Mr. Garcia. If you'd like to proceed.
Yes. First of all, Jose, I want to thank you for coming down and joining us today. Could you please state your name for the record?
Jose Garcia.
Thank you. And when were you employed for Flowers for Smiles?
I've been working there for 3 years now.
Okay. And can you describe your duties at Flowers for Smiles?
Since I took over, I accepted a position with the union of being a delivery driver for the flowers.
Okay. Now, my first question for you is, have you ever received a signed job description stating the hours to be worked?
It wasn't signed, but part of the union contract provided me with my job duties. And then when I bid for my shift, I signed for that actual slot. So that had the hours listed.
Okay. Now, question, how long have you had your second job at Hillside Inc.?
About 2.5 months. I've had it since September.
Okay. And was that because of your financial situation with your wife and 6 children?
It is. The hours are seasonal at the flower shop, so I can't always count on it directly. So I took on a second job after my shift ends at 5, then I start at Hillsdale at 7.
That's not a lot of time between, is it?
No, it's just enough time to call my wife, check on the kids before they get put to bed, make sure things are going well, and I get moving on to my next job.
Okay. My next question is, have you ever been provided a copy of your CBA?
We were. After they had, signed it and we were all at our collective meeting, we were all given a copy, and if we wanted to take it home with us, we could. So I've seen it, but I didn't take a copy home.
Was it explained to you by management? Any particular parts, maybe, say, discipline?
No, not by management. Our union leadership went through the contract with us and kind of described, what all we had agreed to, I guess, collectively.
Do you feel like you fully comprehended the collective bargaining agreement?
I understood it in the sense that I knew I needed to show up for work and that I had these hours to work. And, at that point it was, I just did what everybody else did. You showed up, did your work, and, you expected to be disciplined in a certain manner. But, specifically, nobody told me, if you do this, this is what's direct.
All right, thanks. Now, can you explain to me what happened on October 28th?
Well, I had prior discussed that, I had the second job with my supervisor, Mary, and that these new hours that were posted, that, they just showed up on the wall when I showed up to work. And when I saw them on the wall, I immediately had a problem, knew I was going to have a conflict. So I went to her and said, listen, I have this second job that starts at 7 p.m. and these new mandatory hours are going to affect this. And I've been working 8 to 5. That's what I signed for. So I wasn't going to be able to do it. She told me that there was no exception, that I was just going to have to choose one job or the other.
One job or the other? Okay. Well, has there ever been any previous disciplinary action taken against you?
From having discussions with people as far as discipline, I've never been written up. I was tardy a couple of times, and so I had a discussion with, Mary about what the circumstances were. There was a couple of times when my kids were late getting out the door and the bus was late, and so I was late getting to work. But, just between us, I made sure that I got my route done that day in the allotted time.
Right, but no formal.
No formal. I haven't. I didn't sign anything or wasn't given any time off.
Thank you. Did you believe by not working the newly implemented overtime that you were voluntarily quitting?
Absolutely not. In fact, when I spoke to Mary, all she told me was I had to choose one or the other. So when I didn't show up for, I told her that day I wasn't going to be able to do it because I had already filed the grievance. I had spoken with Sandy Helper, and she told me that, we've got this grievance in, we're working on it. And so I was under the understanding that while that grievance was in, no determination had been made about my job.
Good. Discuss your conversation. I guess you've answered that. Now, have you talked about this with anyone else other than Mary Snips about your circumstances?
Well, because I was, kind of being put up against the wall, I spoke briefly with my foreman at Hillside, which is where I was working my night shifts. And I basically got the same response out of them. But as far as speaking with it, no, just Sandy Alpha was the only person that I had talked to about this incident, saying, what can we do?
From being in the environment, what do you believe typically happens to other employees when they don't report to work for a shift?
Well, it's never happened to me, but I've seen people not show up for work in, what they've called unexcused absence is what, I've heard the term thrown around the office and the loading docks of, we had a driver who didn't show up once because, he drank a little bit too much, didn't show up on time. So he just skipped his whole shift. He was given a write-up. He was taken in with the union steward. Now, I don't know what happened behind the doors, but when he came out, he told us that he had 2 days off.
So usually there's no termination. You haven't seen a termination.
I haven't since I've been there. I heard that one happened, but that person wanted to leave. But my understanding is that after your first one, you get a couple of days off, and then after that, you get a few more days off. But it's tiered.
Okay.
So I think after the third one, you can get terminated for an excused absence.
So by Flowers for Smiles terminating you without any prior formal discipline, do you consider that to be a violation of your CBA?
Well, the termination itself, that was why I went and talked with Sandy Helper. She, helped walk me through it because I did. I felt like it was against what we'd agreed to, that, they need to notify me in advance so I can get my money and my situation in order. But, I told Mary that day that I wasn't going to be able to do it. She never said anything. She never told me, if you leave right now, this is what's going to happen. So, yeah, I felt like it was just kind of blindsided me because I came in on Tuesday after working the full shift on Monday, leaving, and I came back on Tuesday and my time card was gone. And the next thing I was told was that I needed to leave. That was just unacceptable.
No further questions.
Okay. Cross-examination? If you can introduce yourself again.
My name is Brittany Garza, and I'll be cross-examining the witness.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcia, thank you.
You'll have to speak up a little bit for the mic.
Mr. Garcia, thank you for joining us. I just have a few questions pertaining specifically to the events that occurred on October 28th.
Okay.
First of all, do you feel that your position is essential to the company and in carrying out daily activities?
If I don't drive the flowers, they assign it to someone else. But, I feel it's essential because I'm the one doing it. So I take pride in my work. There's an assigned route. I agreed to drive that route, so I drive it.
And if you aren't present for work, like you said, other people can take over. Are there multiple people available, or would you be taking from another person's route?
We've had to share, like when people go on vacation, we share routes, so the work will get divided up into the different trucks, and so we'll kind of expand our route that day. There's other times where the orders in the season it's real busy, like if somebody can't be there, then they post it as overtime and someone from a different shift comes in and picks up that. So we aren't able to pick up someone else's shifts necessarily.
Okay. Do you recall Ms. Snips informing you that you needed to decide which job you wished to pursue?
Yes.
And at that point, what position was most important to you?
Well, at that point in time, I didn't want to make that determination. That's why I went and filed the briefs. At that point in time, I didn't want to make a decision, so I hadn't thought that through yet. I wasn't ready to make that determination. That's why I thought I had another chance at the briefs.
Okay. And do you recall signing a CBA that requires you to work mandatory overtime as requested?
I'm a member. I didn't physically sign the actual CBA. Our reps signed the CBA. But as a part of that, I was given a copy of it, and, I've agreed to it because I signed for my shift. We were told that by accepting the bid of the shift that I signed for, the 8 to 5 shift that I've been doing, that's accepting everything that's inside of the contract.
Okay. So just to clarify, you agree that you have accepted the terms of the CBA?
Yes, absolutely. By accepting the shift that I bid for, we agreed to everything that was inside of the CBA.
Okay. And your supervisor had informed you that there would be no exceptions to the overtime. So did you feel that by filing a grievance that was an exception?
The word exception I don't think was brought up even when I was speaking with Sandy. She told me that we needed to file a grievance based on the fact that we didn't unilaterally agree to something. She used some other terms that I'm not really familiar with. What she basically told me was that we were not allowed to. The company wasn't allowed to change my hours without us agreeing to it, and then that's why we were going to file this grievance. And so there was a chance I might be able to keep both jobs.
Okay, but when you had spoken with Mary Snips, did she inform you that there would be no exceptions for the overtime?
She had said that I had to choose between one or the other. Yes.
Okay. Did you ever speak with your other supervisor at Hillside about potentially changing shifts instead?
I did.
And what was his response?
Her response was that they also didn't have any other openings for me, so that if it was going to become, an inconvenience on both sides, I would have to choose, because that job isn't underneath a collective bargaining agreement. It was an at-will employment, so those are the hours they were set. And so they had no room for flex.
Okay. And in the CBA that we have already discussed that you agreed to, under the discipline, it said that the only reasons that somebody wouldn't be progressively disciplined would be, for things such as fighting, gross negligence, or neglect. Do you believe that by not coming to work, you were neglecting your position in your job duties?
I don't. And in fact, I took that personal and was concerned with Sandy when I spoke to my steward, and she informed me that, that I shouldn't feel that way necessarily. And I did. I communicated with Mary that I was going to be absent, and she said that she understood my situation, but that I had to choose. And when I went to Sandy said, well, you don't have to choose right now. We're going to do the grievance. We're going to do the grievance process.
And Sandy informed you that you did not have to go to work?
No, she didn't specifically tell me not to. She just told me that my grievance was filed. I thought when I came to work that day, and I told Mary this, I said, Mary, my understanding is that while we're in this grievance process, I'm still going to continue on with this schedule. And there was no discussion after that.
She did not have a response to that?
She didn't. She had walked away and said that you need to choose, and she left it at that. And so that was the only guidance I had. So I took it as, we'll see what the agreement says.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn off the tape at this time. Be right back.